Hey, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I am sharing DIYs that are quick change or reversible as a part of the quick change DIY challenge being hosted by Theresa B of Theresa B DIY and Lawn with Living Life with Lawn. So that is what this video is all about. Now let's jump right into the video. Now this DIY, so I'm using this plaque from the Dollar Tree and some poster letters, and I'm going to be spelling the word welcome, and I'm just using the inner part of the letters. I'm going to use the other sections as stencils. Guys, as you will see that this DIY has some elements of fall, and that is only because this project, I started this project all the way in September and I had to set it aside because it was going to drive me up the wall and I wasn't having it. So I taped them down on the surface. I started taping them down off the side, but then I pulled it up and placed them in the middle. And then I'm just going in now with some white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel, and I'm painting over the letters. Now my intention or my original idea was to remove the letters and leave the area black afterwards, but that didn't work because I made so many mistakes with this video. As you can see, I painted it and then I went and dried it with the heat gun, and then here I am now applying some lines, which I'm just adding some brown paint to a piece of jute, and that's gonna form my line. I'm giving it a farmhouse look. So I just wipe some of those brown paint on top of the jute and then use my finger to press it into the surface. And then while I was doing this, it did not dawn on me that I should do this afterwards and not before. And here I am going in as well with some Mod Podge, which is another mistake I made. And I added the Mod Podge and sealed everything in, not realizing that I need to lift the tape up. So I'm just adding this pumpkin from, like I said, this DIY was done way back in fall. So I just used that to cover the hole, and then I'm making a messy bow from these Dollar Tree Thanksgiving ribbon. And then I used a piece of burlap to just tie over the jute that I just added. And then I'm using some fall leaves from the top of one of Dollar Tree's pumpkin and just glued that down, and then I glued the bow on top of it. Now I was very ready, so ready to lift up the tape, and then the trouble started. So when I realized that it wasn't going to come up easily, I decided to just set it aside. So I set it aside for weeks, guys, weeks. And then I picked it back up and decided to work on the reverse side. So now the stencil that I had used from the other side, I am going to use that on this side. And then I had another pumpkin. I'm just going to remove the stem from that pumpkin and use that to cover the hole. So here is the stencil remaining from the letters on the other side. And I learned my lesson from the mistakes I made on the reverse side, so I decided not to repeat it. So I removed the outer part of the letters and just taped the stencil section down. And once I got all of it down, I am going in with some painter's tape just to cover the areas that I don't want the paint on. And I'm going to try my best to stay within the area or the middle of the words. But before I did that, I removed the stem from the pumpkin and I'm going to be gluing down. But then going in now with some acrylic paint from Apple Barrel. And I'm giving just enough to cover the black underneath. And then I dried that with the heat gun. And once that was dried, I am now removing the tape. And you would think that I learned my lesson from the side, the other side, but of course this project decided to give me more work than I bargained for. So I then again set it aside, and I mean like weeks, right? And I would go and work with it until it was finally done. So this is what it looks like in the end. And I was very happy with the way this side turned out. So now I'm going to take that pumpkin that you saw me with in the beginning, and I'm going to remove the stem and glue that on to cover that open space. I'm taking this buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I'm making a bow. And I made the bow and used a piece of the smaller buffalo check ribbon to add to the center. And then I just cut 2 other pieces for the tail of the ribbon. Glued that on, and this DIY is so done, finally done, and I am happy with how it turned out. Now we're on to DIY number 2. Now this is a picture frame from the Dollar Tree as well as one of their gift bags. So I'm removing the plastic from the frame. And then once I had that done, I am removing the insert from the frame, and then I am going to paint the frame with some apple barrel acrylic paint. But before I did that, I am sanding down the surface for the paint to hold or stick to the surface. And then I took out paper or baby wipe and wiped that off. And then I'm going in with a base coat of the white paint just to cover the black. And you want to make sure that you're covering on the inner parts as well. All right, so once I had that done, I then took my heat gun and dried it. So now the frame is all dry. I am going in with some apple barrel, and this is mocha. And I'm going to just brush on, just not too much, just some to catch the same color scheme as the bag. So I'm taking a chip brush with some water, and I'm just damp brushing that on. And once I was satisfied, I dried it again with the heat gun. And now it's all dry. And remove the string from the bag and just use one side. I probably might use the remainder of that for another project. So I just took my X-Acto knife and removed that, and then I placed the glass on top just to see what I was doing underneath. So once I knew where I needed to cut, I placed my cutting mat underneath because I didn't want to cut through the bag, and just remove just a section that I plan to use. And once I had all of that done, it was now time to assemble my frame. So I took a baby wipe, and just clean the frame or clean the glass. And then I put back the inner pieces, and that serves as a buffer for the frame. And this is what it looks like afterwards. So I then took some Mod Podge and just went over the edge or the frame, the outer part of the frame. And when I was done with that, I am going to be putting this, I got this vintage print from online. I can leave the link in the description below as well. And I'm going to put on the inside, and this can serve as another painting after the season. Remove that section for Christmas and just leave this out. So I put that in first, and then I added back the Tis a Season piece, put my backing back in, and this frame is almost done. So now I'm just gonna add some ribbon. I made a small bow, not quite a messy bow, but somewhat a bow. And then I took a piece of red ribbon to add as the tail, glue those on, and this DIY is so done. Well, almost so done. I then took a piece of jute, made a tiny bow, and used half of a wooden bead to secure that. And yes, we're now done. There you have it. Quick, easy, interchangeable DIY. I love it because it was easy and it is interchangeable. Now this one, I'm using this Christmas sign from the Dollar Tree. So I used some heat to remove the whatever that is at the top. It needed some elbow grease as well as some heat because it was glued on. I got these stencils in a pack of 16 from Amazon, and I chose these two sayings: I believe I can, and the other says, yes, you can. So I'm going to be using one for either side. So once I got done the glitter on the joy, just applied some Glue Gun and used my scraper tool to remove that. And then I just used a sanding block to sand that down. Now my original idea was to leave off just a little of that brown showing at the base. So I'm just taping down the areas that I don't want to paint. So I gave it 2 coats, both sides of the apple barrel white acrylic paint. And when that was all dried, I took the sanding block again and just rubbed it down. I am going now to tape down the stencil. Now I have these two paint, the elephant gray and the ivy green, and I was just testing what the shade would look like when I blended both together. This is the mocha with some red, and I'm mixing that together just to get I'm not sure what color this is, but I mixed until I was satisfied with the shade. So I applied that, gave it as much as I could, and in the long run I think I gave it too much because you'll see afterwards. But I think I like the shade. Alright, so like I said, I think I gave it too much because if you can see in some sections they are bleeding. But anyway, and then I took my heat gun and dried that. And I made sure that it was dried properly before I removed the tape. And that is a section that I said I wanted to leave a little of the brown showing through. It wasn't blending in, then I decided to cover it afterwards. So before I jump to the other side, let me just quickly remind you that this is a quick change challenge being hosted by Theresa and Lon. Remember to check out the playlist before you leave. So now I'm going to be doing the other side. I taped down the stencil, and like I showed you earlier, that mixed green and gray paint, that's what I'm going to be using for this side. And I painted that, and this side had some little fishes or school of fish, 3 fishes, whatever. And I am going to be giving them different colors. So I painted one of the fish in that mocha color. I painted another in orange. The anchor at the top in brown. And for the last fish, I mixed 2 colors, red and purple, and I'm not sure what color or shade I got, but I used that and I gave that to the last fish. I painted those in, and then I removed the stencil. And then after you remove the stencil, you dry it just to make sure that all the painted areas were properly dried. And then after I dried it properly, I went over both sides with Mod Podge. And here I am using the dishwasher safe Mod Podge, but you can use whatever Mod Podge you have, that's okay. So now it's all dried. I'm taking that same decorative that I took off from the original sign, and I'm just going to put that back on. I want to use the same hole to hang, so I just wrapped a piece of tape around the end of the jute to feed that through the hole, tie it back there, and then I glued on the greenery. Then made a small bow with a piece of that same ribbon I had used earlier. I made this little bow by cutting 6 pieces of the ribbon and gluing the ends together separately to give me 2 sets of 3 pieces. Then I glued them together, glued them in the middle, cut 2 pieces for the tails, dovetailed those and glued them down. Now when I was done with this side, I then flipped it over. Now because it was still looking a little bare, so I just took the ribbon and added a border to both sides. Made a messy bow. And if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Like, share, comment, and hit that notification bell so you will be notified every time I upload a new video. And enjoy the rest of the video. Alright guys, so this is DIY number 4 and I am not even going to spend too much time talking about this one. I'll just let you watch to see what I'm doing, because I think this one was so easy to put together, and it's just showing you how you can interchange using just your vase, interchange your decor for the season. And I think we are done. So there you have it guys. You have made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around. Easy, quick change decor ideas. Let me know in the comments below which of these was your favorite. I love the welcome interchangeable black and white, as well as the fall side. That is my favorite. And don't forget to check out the playlist down below. You will be so inspired with all the talented crafters on this list. And if you like content like this one, let's keep the fun going. You can watch this video, or you can also watch this playlist, and I will catch you in my next one.